Hello and welcome to Threefold Herbal Healing. I'm Herbalist Leo. I help people who struggle with chronic conditions grow their health from the roots up. Today, I'm going to speak about the second principle of alchemy, as above, so below. It is a really profound principle that literally means that what happens in the cosmos, the journey of the planets around the sun, influence what is happening here on Earth. It is the third video in a series of what will be 4 videos. The first one was about what is alchemy, the origins of alchemy, the history of it. The second was about the first principle of alchemy, the light of nature, which is really the foundation of what we call today holistic health or holistic herbalism. And this is the third video about as above, so below. It is what it means really is what happens in the macrocosmos happen in the microcosmos. What happened in the microcosmos has an effect on the macrocosmos. So it is true for the entire cosmos and each planet or what's happening in Earth, but it's also true that everything that happens in the entire organism of your body influences each and every cell, and every cell actually influences the entirety of your macrocosmos, your entire body. So we are going to explore it more in the wide version, where we will talk about planets and plants. But this is true also for the way really everything works between every cell of your body and the entire organism, and you as a cell in the wider organism of nature. So let's talk a little bit about plants and planets. Really, this principle of as above, so below allow English herbalist Nicholas Cloper is a very known herbalist that worked in the beginning of the 1600s, like he lived between 1616 to 1654. He used that saying as above, so below to connect planets with plants. So he used the qualities or virtues that are associated with different planets to explain qualities of different plants. He had a book that was called The English Physician, enlarged, that he published in 1653, and he described there are 328 plants, out of which 322 are related to one of the 7 planets of the pre-modern astrology. And people until today go look into his book in order to get insights about different plants. The 7 planets represent an harmonious patterns of the creation. It manifests itself in the 7 days of the week, the 7 visible light waves that makes the color spectrum, the 7 notes of the musical scale, and the 7 chakra. So you can see that the number 7 create this harmony, create this whole out of the parts. So let's talk a little bit about the 7 planets and what qualities they bring into the macrocosmos and the microcosmos. Those qualities affect our life here on the earth. So the first planet we are going to talk about is the sun. The sun is the center or the heart of creation. As the center of the wheel of time, it regulates the 4th season, plant growth, and bird migration. It represents our inner light, the light of consciousness and wisdom. You know, when you think about, oh, I have an insight, you see light, you see a bulb of light like in your head. That's where it comes from. The sun is associated with Sunday as the day that is associated with. The astrological sign is Leo. It is associated with gold as its metal, and the grain is wheat. Some herbs that are associated with the sun are saffron, and saffron is used for depression, to bring light into dark corner of the mood, the same way Sejong does. Even just looking at Sejong flowers, you can see the association to the sun, and rosemary also this warmth and light that it brings to the brain. The next planet we are going to talk about is the moon. By nature, the moon is receptive and introverted. It does not have its own light, but it reflects the light of the sun. The moon is associated with the water element, and it affects the ebb and flow of the tide. We all know that, and the cycles of women's reproductive system. The moon is related to the inner self, to more introverted emotions, feeling, internalizing what's happening outside. So while the sun is radiating out, the moon is internalizing. The day of the week that is associated with the moon is Monday, moon day. The astrological sign is Cancer, and the metal is silver. The grain is rice. Herbs that are associated with the moon are cleaver, chickweed, and porcelain. And you can think about it. They have a lot of fluid in them and minerals. Mars. Mars represents the warriors, the protector, the hunter, whose vital forces move up and outward. It corresponds to the blood and is associated with Tuesday. The astrological sign is Aries and Scorpio, very combatful, aggressive signs. The metal is iron and the grain is barley. Some herbs that are associated with Mars are nettle, hops, and hawthorn. So a very powerful planet. If you put the other way, like contradictory planet, is Venus. It's a very soft planet. Venus represents the spirit rising above matter through the power of beauty, relationship, and love. She governed the law of attraction, harmonizing the parts and creating the whole. Venus rules Taurus and Libra. She is associated with Friday. The metal is copper, the warmth of the heart, and the grain is oats. Some herbs that are associated with Venus are marshmallow, peach, and feverfew. Very softening herbs. Jupiter. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. It represents expansion. Its gifts allow us to expand our vision and to see the world from the bird's eyes view, to get new perspective, wider perspective, new ideas, new beliefs. It's considered to be the great beneficiary for its uplifting, joyous effect. Jupiter is the planet of inspiration and visions. Jupiter relates to Pisces and Sagittarius. The metal is tin, and the day of the week is Thursday. The grain is rye, and some herbs that associate with Jupiter are sage, wisdom, hyssop, and dandelion. Saturn. Saturn set the boundaries between the visible and invisible planets. It's the farthest planet in our solar system. It is the gatekeeper of time that connects and liberates matter and spirit, making it the ruler of life and death. It's in the threshold, in the boundary of the cosmos. Saturn forces us to let go and let things die, to transform and grow. In order to grow, in order to transform, you need to let things go and die. As such, he is the great teacher who pulls the rug from under our feet and forces us to make changes. The 7 rings around Saturn represent our personal boundaries and limits. Saturn is governed by Capricorn and Aquarius. The metal is lead. The day of the week is Saturday, and the grain is corn. Herbs that are associated with Saturn are Solomon seal, comfrey, and mullein. Mercury, the big messenger who travels and connects the upper, the middle, and the underworld. Therefore, he is considered the weaver of the as above, so below. It is kind of like he embodies this impulse of connecting the spirit with the matter, the upper world with the underworld. Mercury stands on the threshold of consciousness between wakefulness and unconscious. Think about this state of consciousness you are at just before you wake up, where you are starting to be aware of where you are, what's going on, but you're still in this dreamy state of not totally conscious. You're very receptive. It's related to the respiratory system because the respiratory system is a system that lives between unconscious and full awareness. It's the only system that functions without your consciousness constantly, but you can make a choice of controlling your breath and then breathe with consciousness, with intention. You can slow your breath, you can take a deep breath. As the messenger, Mercury rules the voice and the ability to communicate. It is ruled by Gemini and Virgo and relates to Mercury or Quicksilver as the metal. It is associated with Wednesday and the grain is millet. Herbs that are associated with Mercury are usually aromatic because aromatic herbs, they have a physical body, they have leaves, but the constituents tend to evaporate and dissipate. Fennel, elecampane, and licorice. Ancient culture perceived the plants not just as physical bodies, but as ensouled beings that influence life here on Earth. We can hear echoes of this mindset in how the days of the week are named after the different planets. So they could still see those connections between planetary beings and what's happening on the Earth. In some culture, eating the grain of the day is something they practice. I know that my kids in their kindergarten practice the grain of the day. For the alchemists, the astrological patterns were experienced as the light of nature shining through the physical world. Like a kaleidoscope, they formed and colored nature. They gave each phenomena a different color. So each plant had a pattern that was, affected by the planet that it was associated with. Those patterns solved the riddles of creation for them. They explained why means thrive in a place that is wet, why blue vervain cells stands tall and rigid, and how it can help us. It gave them the association between people, plants, planets, and conditions. The alchemists who practiced the principle of as above, so below, experienced the concept of holistic medicine as a complex relationship between the whole person, the whole plant, and the whole cosmos. So we have a lot of complexity in there that we today tend to miss because we see the planet as bodies, not as ensouled beings, and we don't see the relationship. One type of people that really, until today, work in conversation, in relationship with this principle of as above, so below, are biodynamic farmers. Until 2 years ago, and for over a decade, I was a biodynamic farmer and practice as above, so below every day. In two ways, actually. One way was adhering to the biodynamic calendars. So The biodynamic calendar followed the four elements: earth, water, air, and fire. And those are represented by the 12 sign of the zodiac. Maria Thun was a German or Austrian researcher that for decades researched, and she was not the only one. I know of Sherry Wildflower in Pennsylvania. There are other people who research seeding, transplanting, and harvesting with alliance to the zodiac, specifically with the moon journey through the zodiac. And what they found is that on the days when the moon was in front of an earth sign in the zodiac, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, if you on that day seeded, transplanted, harvested root vegetables, potatoes, carrots, sweet potatoes, roots, those will have more abundance and better crops, better yield. On days that you seeded and transplanted and harvested, well, mostly seeded and transplanted leaves, it was better if the moon was in front of water sign. So we are talking about Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Crops that are related to the air sign are crops that you harvest flour, broccoli and cauliflower. If you seeded or transplanted them in Gemini or Libra or Aquarius when the moon was in any of those signs, you will have better yield. And fruits are crops when the moon are in fire sign. So if you seeded or transplanted fruit vegetables like tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers on a day when the moon was in front of Aries or Leo or Sagittarius, you would get a better yield. When I grew herbs, I tried to follow that, especially with the seeding and transplanting. Harvesting became more complicated because there are other factors that come into the picture when it comes to harvest. But it was important with seeding and transplanting to do it in the right day on the biodynamic calendar. The second way that I adhered to the rule of as above, so below was with the biodynamic preparation. The biodynamic preparation are unique, and their idea is that you make homeopathic medicine out of either cow manure or of herbs, chamomile, nettle, valerian are herbs that are used in biodynamic preparation. You ferment them in a specific way, and then you stir them for an hour in spring water, and then it's really homeopathic. You put a little bit of the preparation in spring water and you spring for an hour, creating this whirlpool thing that attract the forces of the cosmos into the herbs, and then you spray the soil with them, and the understanding that it's attract the influences of the sun, the moon, and the planet, and it's bring vitality and fertility into the garden. And again, it was researched for a long time, and we saw the results. So I loved it. It was part of my really seasonal routine. But biodynamic is not really about all those practical applications. The biodynamic farmer believed that its inner work, the work that it puts into the garden, is what's transformed the earth. That we are kind of modern alchemists who, through our work, build a bridge between heaven and earth. Now, how does it relate to you? Because you're not a biodynamic farmer, but you could be the bridge between heaven and earth in your life. And don't we need it today with all the chaos, all the grief and the pain that we have right now in the world? The saying, as above, so below, also mean that everything that happened in the macrocosmos happened in the microcosmos, and everything that happens in the microcosmos affects the macrocosmos. So your ability to affect what's happening in your heart, in your soul, that's the only control you really have. And if you can purify that space, be very intentional with what you feel, think, and expand, and be very intentional with the way you live, that you will create a ripple effect that will affect everything around you. It will affect the entire cosmos eventually. So, as what happened in the microcosmos is as important as what's happening in the entire cosmos. You have the power to make the change. I hope you found this interesting, beneficial, inspiring. It will send you back to read more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I will meet you next week for the last video in this series. You can leave comments and questions under this video. I would love to hear from you. Have a good week. Bye.